Hey guys, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, review, do all that jazz. We're on Patreon now. We've always actually been on Patreon, but I've actually been trying to really plug it. Subscribe, rate, review on Apple Podcasts. We are trying to get as many reviews as possible so we can get more guests. We're also on Spotify and Anchor, so show your support on that. Uh, Book me on Cameo. Christmas time right around the corner, so your help is very encouraged during that time. I have some shows at www.keithreza.com. I usually plug them on the show, but I don't know when I'm going to be releasing this episode. So it'll make no sense to plug shows I have this week if I release this episode in a couple weeks. Yeah. Alan Lee will not be here today. I feel like I have to disclosure when my sidekicks won't be here. And Victor Pacheco will not be here today. I was thinking maybe I'll do an episode with both Alan and Victor and see how it works out. But then I feel it takes the energy and the momentum off of the show if you have more than one trusty sidekick. But like I'm Batman, so I could handle a city of dark, robbers and villains and stuff by myself. I mean, I've done it before, you know. Excellent. All right, guys. Well, I'm very excited for this guest. I was supposed to record this in Vegas, but my Vegas shows, they didn't get canceled. I just wasn't allowed to do them. So, it was one of those weird situations. I mean, I'm still kind of bummed out about it because I know I was promoting it for a while, but in the business, shit happens. But so I was supposed to record this in person, which I think in-person interviews are more energetic and more good for a show. But I understand with the past 3 years what the country's gone through and all that stuff. A lot of people are just used to the computer. But like I said, I was supposed to do this in Vegas live, and this person was nice enough to be willing to do it on Zoom. So that's cool too. You've seen him on Reno 911, America's Got Talent, Pawn Stars. He's a national Vegas magician headliner, and he has his own show at the Tropicana Laugh Factory. And I'm very excited to talk to him. So it'll be my second magician I've ever interviewed, the great Murray Sawchuk, where you guys know him, Murray the Magician. Enjoy the show. If you like it, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, share. We'll be right back with Murray the Magician on Reza Riffs.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
What's up?
Hey, Murray, how are you, buddy?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Doing good. Thank you so much for doing this. I know we were supposed to do in person, but I appreciate you doing the Zoom.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for sorry I was a bit late there. I was outside in the heat and I had to get something done quickly before it's so hot in Vegas. Unbelievable, dude.
Oh, how hot is it?
It's like 107, 109.
Oh my God. Is that hot enough to melt tires?
No, but if you have anything hot glued, I've realized, and you have it outside, it'll actually remelt the hot glue.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, I fixed a little bar I bought online by my pool, and in the winter I hot glued some of the panels together because they're tongue and grooved, and I thought it'd be easy. Look great in the winter, and then I went out there a couple days ago, and like 4 or 5 pieces of wood had just fallen off this thing. I wonder if a kid's kicked a soccer ball in my yard or something. And then I realized I hot glued it all, and it's so hot out, the glue just melted, and the panel just dropped off. So much for using hot glue. So
Well, see, that's the thing about like technology and stuff. Like I had no idea stuff like that melts, and you know what I mean? Like I learned
Yeah.
about like 5 or 6 years ago when it happened to me. But
Yeah, right. It's crazy.
yeah.
Oh well, I mean, we only get it for 6 or 8 weeks a year, so it's not that bad. You know, we always get sunshine, so it's all right. It's just you're, hopping from air conditioning to air conditioning. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Well, so you're the second magician I've ever interviewed. So
No
I
way.
yeah, so I do apologize. I don't know a lot about magic, but I'm fascinated by it. So if you hear some questions you've already answered, I do apologize because I like to not ask same questions.
That's fine. Who's you interview? Who's the other magician?
Piff the Magic Dragon.
Oh, love Piff. Yeah, dear friend of mine.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but he's not a real dragon.
I've heard that rumor. I've heard that rumor. I don't know. I've heard that rumor though. Just Ah,
Uh, but
uh,
I wanted to ask you, like, what was it like? Because like, you also do like stand-up comedy. Like, I think you're a stand-up comic musician. You know what I mean? Because you have
I
a lot
am.
of good jokes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to. So you know how comedians, get their break by opening up for people and being mentored and stuff. How is it like being a magician? Because do magicians have opening magician acts, or like, how does that work?
They do, and it kind of varies. It's funny as a magician, though. I started out as a magician when I was like 7 years old, and I became, pretty good. I won a bunch of awards and all this other stuff, and a world champion and all that. But in my late 20s, I came to Vegas for my first show at the Frontier. It was a magic show, and I realized I wanted to get on TV. And with magicians, there's not a lot of room on TV for magicians. There's usually one magician at a time that's famous on TV, whether it be David Copperfield or Houdini or Blackstone or Doug Henning or whoever you want to think about that's famous. But in comedy, you can do anything. You could be on a sitcom. There's a lot of stand-up shows. I know in the 80s, as you know, just blew up like crazy. You
Yeah,
could be a host. There's so many more avenues. And if you're just a magician, you're kind of like, it's kind of like, being Mickey Mouse. You're kind of a mouse. That's it. You're a mouse, great mouse, but you're a mouse. So I thought, and when I was sitting around talking with people, I go, you're really funny, and you know how to deliver a joke. Why don't you work on that more? Because there's not many magicians that are funny, think they are. I thought, man, that's not a bad idea. So when I was around 28, when I first moved to Vegas, I opened the Frontier in 2002. Reality TV was coming on, and I saw William Hung on American Idol singing She Bangs, She Bangs.
yeah.
And there's a guy who couldn't sing worth a damn.
But
Became
he's so famous now.
Oh my God, we're talking about right now, aren't we? He's pop culture. And he was getting, soon he became famous on that show. Never won, of course, but the amount of fame he had was unbelievable. And then he was getting like 30,000 a corporate show. And I'm thinking, I've been doing this all my life. At this point, I was 28. I got more awards than most magicians, and no one knows who the hell I am. And I thought, this is interesting. This is before, the Instagrams and all this other crap. So I said, I'm going to try to get in reality TV and find an angle, and I got to expand who I am. So I started with my own show in Vegas, the Frontier. On my days off, I'd drive into LA and do the potlucks over at the Comedy Store. And Tuesdays, I'd go wait in line at the Laugh Factory, and do the open mics. And just as a stand-up, I wore plaid pants and a loose dress shirt and had my hair up as usual. And I wanted to learn how to become funny, and I do 9 10 jokes, and 9 would bomb and 1 would work. I go, great, I'd take that back to Vegas, put it in my show,
Yeah,
and that's kind of how I worked out the comedy in that. And then once I learned how to become funny, because I was doing tricks with jokes, and I thought, well, how the hell do I make the magic funny now? You know what I mean? Like, it's great to do a joke and then do a trick, but that's really not a brand yet. That's kind of just
two different beasts. Yeah,
well, yeah. So how do you really do that? So I realized I start taking my tricks and kind of really doing the Dennis the Menace on them, meaning, I try to do something serious and the whole thing would go to shit. You know what I mean? And then you get the laugh off that because it's funny. And then you haphazardly put it back together at the very end. You do fool them and it becomes a miracle. There was a very famous magician back in the 40s and 50s. He was on some Elvis movies and stuff like that. And McHale's Navy, his name was Ballantyne, Carl Ballantyne. And quite famous in Hollywood as a character type actor and magician. And he became very famous for that stuff. He'd cut a rope up, have a big long rope, cut. He goes, and now it's back together, and he'd drop it, and it'd be this thick piece of rope with one thread holding the rope together, and then the other thick piece.
yeah.
So stuff like that. would be, and he'd grab one little napkin or tissue paper off his table and be full of crap. It'd be Chinese rings and feathers and flowers. And he grabs one tissue paper. As he grabbed it, the whole table would go. You know what I mean? So I really appreciated that kind of thing. So that's what I really started in my late 20s to going, I got to figure out how to be funny, because there's a lot more places to work and people love to laugh. As you know, clapping's easy. You can see a crap act and still clap and go, I better give him a clap. But laughing, if it's not funny, as you know, they do not laugh. So it's a beautiful thing to hear people laugh and really naturally have a great time like that,
So I watched your 1 hour special and I loved it.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that you also have so many great witty comebacks for when the people don't laughing, that I think it's just as funny.
Yeah.
So like I was just like, so like that you got to train your brain really hard on that, because you're not only doing comedy, you're doing magician, and then you got to come up with something that everyone can relate to.
Yeah, it's and as you know, you really start when you do it more. When you do it more, you realize that it becomes easier and easier the more you do it. I mean, it's one of those things where you sit back, and when you first at least get into comedy, as we've all done at some point in our lives, when somebody throws something at you, or a waitress drops a drink, or somebody yells out something, you kind of stumble because it might be in the middle of your routine. And you're like, my God, I got to remember this damn routine. And then when you work every night, it'll happen. You'll jump back with something, have a great, comeback, and that'll stick in your head for the next 50 years. So you go, next time somebody drops a drink or breaks a glass or whatever, you have a line going, oh my God, somebody's breaking into my house, but then I remember I didn't have as many people in my house. Actually, I don't even have a house. Actually, I live in my car in the back, and that's how you get a joke. That's how you kind of make a joke. And as you know, as you keep going through comedy, you save these little gems in your head. So when something does happen, you look like a genius going, oh my God, he's so quick. But you realize you probably said that line once a month when a baby cries, and there's a baby in the audience or whatever the heck it is,
Yeah, the one I always use is when a waitress drops a drink. I always say, "All right, the club's now hiring."
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or another one is, if somebody drops something or they're bad, you go, well, there's an opening on Angie's List for a waitress here at between 8 and midnight.
And now, so I did a little Google, and then like you were mentored by a magician called Mr. Electric, which I don't know who that is, but I was mentored by one of the best stand-ups ever, so I kind of know how it's like being mentored. So I was wondering, like, how is that when you're learning from the craft? Because I heard that you love this guy like he was your hero. So
yeah. Who is your mentor, if you don't mind asking?
I toured with Norm Macdonald for 9 years.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Huh? What a legend, huh? That's amazing.
So now, like, my career's all the way down.
Hey, you know what? Show business is up and down, man. I mean, I'll answer that question in 2 seconds, but look at Matt Rife. A year ago, he couldn't sell 100 tickets, and now he's sold out, and lightning in a bottle. Love him or hate him, you're doing it. And comedy's so subjective, you know what I mean? So it happens, you know what I mean? Look at Louis Anderson, man, he had ups and downs. That a cartoon was on Family Feud, and then had a few things happen publicly that probably shouldn't have gotten out, and then got off Family Feud, and then he won an Emmy for being on Baskets on FX, so
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Mr. Electric you were asking about, he's phenomenal. Mr. Electric is probably one of the top variety acts in the 1950s through to like the 1990s. And the act was basically, he took light bulbs, put them in his hands, and he lit them. But it was all done to music, really well choreographed, kind of like if you'd see somebody doing an acrobatic act in Cirque du Soleil, or you see a mime act like Marcel Marceau or something like that, or even Tape Face. He had this wonderful act. And don't forget, he came up with this act in the 40s and the 50s. I mean, electricity was only invented, not but long before that, you know what I mean? So for someone to undo a light bulb, hold it in their hand, right? In their band, and light it up. And when he lit it up, it wasn't like lit up like a tiny little nightlight. He lit this thing up. You couldn't look at the stage. Like the power he got into the bulb, that was really the magic. One thing, you can light up a little thing and put a flashlight behind a bulb or whatever you want to try and figure out. But when he had that light bulb lit up, it would light up the whole theater. It was unbelievable. And so of course he was a phenomenon. He worked everywhere. And he worked in Europe. He worked in Europe for 20 years because there was so much work in the 50s and 60s and cabarets over there. The Lido in Paris, France, and so many wonderful places over there, the Moulin Rouge, all those places. And Ed Sullivan And for those who don't know who Ed Sullivan is, it's obviously like the Jimmy Fallon of the 1950s. That
He
was
was
the
Johnny Carson's sidekick.
totally, yeah, exactly. And he got asked to go on his show from New York City, and they thought he was a European act because he spent so much time in Europe for 20 years. He didn't realize he was from LA. That's where he lived and was born because he spent so much time. So they flew him over, and they actually thought he was French or he was Italian or something like that. He's actually American. He spent so much time there. But yeah, he was the guy that basically taught me a couple of things. He said, Murr, when you're young, like when I met him, I was 16. So when you're young, it's easy to be good because in magic, you can buy, trick, learn something, even steal jokes or take, joke book and write jokes, right? Because we all learn somehow, right?
Right.
And you can go up there and say those jokes and you'll get a laugh because you know how to deliver it. You're cute looking, you look great, you got a thing. And if you do that, you'll probably work for 5 years because you're young and you're good at 16 because people can't believe the 16-year-old is that good. But as you get into your adult years in your 20s, those aren't going to work as much because you're going to have more competition. So if you spend 1 year and just take jokes and magic from other people and just do it, you'll work probably for 5 years. But if you spend 5 years and make something original and different and unique, you'll work for 50 years.
Yeah.
And that's one thing he taught
forever,
me.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing he taught me. So that was a big thing. And he's very honest. Back in the day, I'd send him VHS tapes because that's the way it was back in the 90s, the early 90s. And him and his wife, Carol, would look at them and they'd actually write faxes back because there's no internet at the time. And they just fax me pointers on what to do, saying, Murray, hold your bow longer. This doesn't really make sense, or whatever the case is. And he really taught me how to be an entertainer and to be different. And that's why, obviously, on the Zoom, I got a hat on and stuff. I haven't gotten ready for my show yet. But for most people who know me, I got the blonde, spiky hair and the glasses and all that. And I used to always wear a blue suit, which I still wear blue now most of the time. Those are kind of my brands. I haven't really changed that much. So I think that's a big part, of being a star. Some just naturally have it and it just works. Some have it built in, like Jay Leno. He just happens to have a big face, a big chin, and a little bit of gray at the top. It's really gray in the middle. And I think he might even put that in now to make sure it's part of his character. But some people you got to create it. You know what I mean? Like Andrew Dice Clay and Phyllis Diller and Lucille Ball, so.
Yeah. So is that really like, because for comics, mentorship is really heard of. A lot of people know that, but for magicians, is that like just out of the blue? Because it seems like he really, really cared for you to go out of the way to do that. I don't know if other magicians, take care of people like that.
He really did, and I was just having a conversation with my wife recently, and we're talking about some young magician in town, and he's trying to be David Copperfield. He's trying to be the next big star, and he's in his early 20s, and his marketing's a little over the top, and it's easy to look at him and go, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be, and it's easy for all of us to do that. We'll even look at comics going, well, they really think they're the shit, Yeah. But when you're young, I think you do have to have a little confidence and you got to think that you can be that great. You know what I mean? Even though we know it's a lot of work to get there. And I was telling my wife, I said, a lot of people are talking a little bit bad about him and that. And I said, I think people talk bad about me as well. I was that kid. That's why I don't see a problem with him being over the top because he'll figure it out. He'll do things that go, that didn't work or this did work. But I got to respect that. And the one thing Marv Roy, Mr. Electric, taught me, even, he lived till 95 years old, even in his late 80s and he was right with it right to the end. He had a stroke and then he passed away about 5 weeks later in Palm Springs. But 95 is pretty unbelievable. He wanted to make 100, but he never made it. But we'd be sitting around and talking like this. And him at 92, 93, he'd be like, that YouTube thing you're doing. Because I always tell him I got a lot of views and try to explain to him, he says, man, I sure wish I had that when I was your age. Boy, I could do a lot with that. Whereas old people go, oh, what a waste of time. It's not like the old days like Lawrence Welk and Johnny Carson, Jack Benny. And he was somehow understood it and accepted it. He said, I can't get on it now because I can't learn a computer right now. I'm just not, it's not my era and I really don't need it. He says, but boy, in my era, boy, if I was your age, I would be eating that stuff up. So it's so great to see somebody in their early 90s not be jaded and not go, well, it's not like the old days. It's, well, we're all going to have that conversation because we grew up like that. And it's a very comforting thing. But it was nice to have that. So in my mind, the one thing I've learned from him, which is a ton of things, is as I get older or as I get that jaded edge, because we all do, or you see an actor and you start being that person, you go, I try to make myself stop, and I go, no, don't be like that. Support it. Because everyone's got their own little path, and they get excited, or they get cocky, or they get egotistical, or whatever the hell it is. Just try to understand it and embrace it a little bit, and don't let it turn you off. Especially at my age now, because I'm somewhat established now. And that's
You're a star now.
whoa, God, what, who, what? But the nice thing I learned about him, though, I think the reason he helped people, the other reason is, to answer that question, is that, he was a legend. I mean, he did every TV show. They had an amazing life. They lived in Woodland Hills and toured and did the Magic Castle. They moved to Palm Springs, just like their fellow stars did, the Frank Sinatras, Dean Martins, and all those people. And they really had the life that they dreamed of. And even buried, both of them are passed away now, and they're even buried at the same cemetery, Desert Springs Cemetery in Palm Springs, with Frank Sinatra down there. And I think he helped people because there was no competition. I really believe that when you're an original and you find your niche, and it's not easy, man, finding your hook and niche, like the Carrot Tops, Enderdice Clays, and all these people, is not easy. But once you find it, like even with Ron White, then there's no competition, because you're being you, and I think I'm at that point now where, you and I could do a cut the rope trick just to make it easy. Well, it's nothing, and we're not reinventing the wheel. But if I taught you cutting the rope trick with a comedy flair, and you and I would both have our own ways of doing it. And I know I certainly would. And I'd go along the way my brand would work, kind of like it would work, and then it would fall apart, and I'd pick the pieces up. And then when I handed it back to the person in their hands, they'd open it, and the whole thing would be back together again, So everyone has their thing, so.
No, but I totally agree, because like as a stand-up, they're all competing with each other, where me, like for example, I was supposed to do Vegas this weekend, and then Paul told me that he forgot to tell the booker that he's bringing me, so the booker paid somebody. And like I was just like, okay, maybe that's true, or maybe the booker just doesn't like me. There could be several reasons where I shouldn't compete or get my feelings hurt. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
That's it. And you can't change it. You can't change it.
So
yeah.
Were cruise ships hard for you when you were starting? Because don't they like need to have different acts for like a 7 o'clock for kid friendly and a 10 o'clock for like more for the adults?
Well, cruise ships were hard for me because I started cruising when I was 19, 20 years old. And so they were hard for me because I wasn't good, I bullshit my way to get on, and when I got that first phone call, I think it was 20, it was the summer of, I'm trying to think, summer of like 93 or 94, I think. And the agent called me, big cruise ship booker in Vancouver, John Whitefoot, who's still a friend of mine. And Murr, he said, I got a gig for you. 2 months out of Montreal to New York on a cruise ship that pays $1,100 a week, which I couldn't believe it, because that money at 20 years old, and don't forget I was Canadian, so this is $1,100 American, which at that point in the economy, I think it was about $1,600 or $1,800 Canadian a week. Yeah. I never thought I'd make that much in my life doing magic, on a cruise ship, seeing the world. Holy crow, and he says they need 2 45-minute acts and a 15-minute opener. You got it? I'm like, yep, I got it. Great. All right. When do you leave? This is a Tuesday. He said, well, you fly out Friday. I'm like, okay, great. He's got to get an American bank account and send me your passport, and we'll get it sorted, and I'll fax you the contract. I'm like, sounds good. So I hung up the phone, did one cartwheel, and crap myself. I was like, holy shit, I don't even have 10 minutes of adult material. You know what I mean? I was doing kids' birthday parties. I was doing corporate shows in Vancouver, and all, but mainly family festival kid stuff. I'm not, I do maybe 3 or 4 adult shows at Christmas, for a corporation, and I'd get my stuff together, but that wasn't my forte at that time. And I thought, holy smokes. So I knew I had 45 minutes. I knew I had a 45-minute show, but it was for families and stuff. And I thought, how the hell am I going to net a different 45, another 15 minutes I could probably fluff by. Right. 45 I kind of had, and that was like, we're talking really high C-level material, not even B. Maybe there was 1 2-minute A material in there. And then I thought, oh shit. So in New York, there's a very famous magic shop called Tannen's Magic. Been there forever. And they had a catalog. Don't forget, this is before the internet. That you could buy stuff online. So I got the catalog, kind of like we get for Sears or whatever else you have back in the day. So before I left, I thought, oh my God. So I opened the catalog and I literally went through it and I bought. Talk about, magic is the only career you can buy your goddamn talent. And I'm not kidding you. Comedy, you can't. You can buy a joke, but if you don't know how to say it, It's not, it doesn't matter how much you
Oh
spend.
yeah, you're done. Yeah.
No, your violin, I can buy you a violin. You're still not going to play it. You know what I mean? I can give you 3 balls to juggle. Just because you throw them in the air doesn't mean your magic is the only art form. And I'll say it, and I'm in it, that you can buy your talent. And I see it happen a lot. There's a lot of shit magicians out there. But the point is, not to be jaded or edgy or sarcastic, but I did. I was that shitty magician buying the props. So I can say this. So I literally went through the catalog, about 45 minutes worth of material that I knew the bits would be 3 to 5 minutes. I bought this trick. I knew it, and I thought, okay, well, I need 45 minutes. So that's, I could do probably, okay, buy 10 or 15 tricks. That should do it. So I go to the catalog, order them to the pier. There's a mailbox that you can get on ships. They have a port agent, they call it. And that's where all the mail's gone. And the mail's brought in the ship. So, well, if I call now and order it, it'll be at the dock by the time I get there the following Friday. I'll get the stuff. Hopefully my show's not for 2 or 3 days into the cruise.
Right.
And I can learn this goddamn stuff and put a 45-minute show together. And the reason they needed 245 is because it was a 14-day cruise. And some people cruised from Montreal to New York and got off. And new passengers would get on and go back for the 7-day cruise. But some passengers that were rich or had money, they do the whole 14 days. They'd board in Montreal, go down and come back. A lot of Canadians would do that and that. So that's why you needed 2 shows. So the people who were watching your show on the way back wasn't going to see the same crap. So I hopped on the ship and I did my 15 minutes, did the 45-minute show. Not bad. Bought all this stuff. And then I had music. So I had cassette tapes, because that's what we had then. There was no CDs. And so I had more music, and I had a double cassette tape player. So I could record one. So I get music from my acts and bullshit. And so I get my box of magic stuff, and my cruise ship room. If anyone has never been on a cruise ship, the cruise ship room is no bigger than what you're looking at right now. My desk almost. I mean, literally, you can, scratch your ass, your nose, and take a shit at the same time. I mean, all in one place. And so, so that's how big my room was. So when I walked in my room, it looked like a goddamn magic store, because I opened everything. I'm reading instructions, trying to figure this stuff out. Long story longer, I did my show down there. I got away with it. And then my show wasn't for like 3 days on the way back. So my show wasn't like, I think our turnaround day was like on Friday or Saturday. So I think my show was like the following Wednesday. Tell you, for 3 days, I did not sleep. All I did was learn these damn tricks, try to figure out a song that would go with it so it would look nice, because I didn't do everything talking. I wasn't funny then at all. So I would just introduce a trick and do a trick as a trick,
Yeah.
And I put a show together on the way back, and I pulled it off. And I stayed on there for 8 weeks. Cruise directors changed. A lady cruise director came on named Leslie Spencer. And she said, and the cruise director originally was like a gay cruise director that I think was trying to hit on me. And I wasn't a part of that at all. And this is, don't forget, when gay was really still hidden. Gay wasn't out, and everything was very quiet. And I think he's gay, and they would never say it. Super nice guy, but he was trying to hit on me. I thought, oh my God, he's going to fire me because I'm not going to sleep with the guy or going to flirt with the, all this crap went through my head. I'm like, oh my, and my act's not even good. I'm thinking, Jesus, maybe I got to suck a dick, maybe just one dick. Just got to make sure it's the right dick. Right. So Keith, I'm just like, all right. Anyways, did not do that. But this new cruise director comes on, Leslie Spencer, and English lady, saved my life. She liked me. She says, Murr, normally when I come on, I change the whole team over and the cast and crew when their contracts are over, because I want my new people. I want fresh people who haven't been here for a long time. But I like you. You seem really eager. Would you be willing to stay? And if you could stay, would you also possibly want to be the assistant cruise director? Because I need somebody to run the computer for the programs, and you're quite good with your computer, because we could, computers were just coming in then, laptops. And I thought, oh my God. I thought, well, if I could keep my job, I know I can run a computer, right? I know I can type up programs. I'm good with people. So I said, yeah, let's do it. So I became assistant cruise director, and I extended that contract for 5 contracts, and I stayed 7.5 months.
Wow.
On that ship. And I was an assistant cruise director as well as a headliner. And that's kind of how I kept my job, I think, because I really wasn't that good of an act, but I was good enough to get by, but I was also good at other things. And then by the end of the 7 months, you know what? I had 2 45-minute shows. It wasn't definitely all A material, but I had a lot of material. And if you believe, to this day, I still do some of that material, and now it's actually good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Only 30 years,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
So you've talked about it a little, but like for every trick you have, there's a lot of time that you go into it, kind of like a joke, like for stand up, for every minute, you got to try that 1 minute for 100 minutes just to get it good. So like, how's the mindset for a trick? Because every movement I watched on your special, Like, I don't know any how you did it, but I know every movement is a reason why you did it.
100%. You're not wrong at all, and you're right. Um, it's true with anything. And the one thing with magic and comedy, I can never go on a talk show and just talk. I can
Yeah.
never do that because I'm not an actor, and as a comedian, I can be funny like you and I are now talking. But every time I go somewhere as a magician, I got to be like Inspector Gadget because they're going to ask me for a trick. So I can't just ever relax and just enjoy an interview, you know what I mean? Because I've got a deck of cards here, a bird here, an elephant back here, and because I know they're going to ask me to do something, and then because that's what I do for a living. So now I not only do I be entertaining and funny and answer the questions right and look the part, and then I got to do a trick that hopefully with the camera angles at a studio, they hit me right, especially with live shows, you know what I mean? So, in magic, I'm very lucky now because I get to work a lot. I've had my show at the Laugh Factory for 10 years now at Tropicana. I had a 3-year break where I went to Planet Hollywood. But for example, I'm shooting my second comedy special now, August 21st at South Point Casino here in Las Vegas.
Oh, I love South Point.
Yeah, great hotel, right? Yeah. So I think Rob Schneider shot his special there and a few others. And so I'm shooting mine there. I got a beautiful LED screen, a really nice room, holds about 450 or 500.
Holds that much?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I thought it held more because the way it's designed, but they got booths and tables. So it kind of,
I always thought it holded less because I've done it several times, but maybe it does hold that much.
No. So you're talking about the Dirty at 12:30, right? That
No,
show?
we did the theater because I did it
Okay.
with Norm several
Oh,
times.
okay. Of course you did. Okay, no, that holds about 440. I thought it was
Wow.
like 650 or 7, but it's actually 440. Yeah, because they got the booths and they stack them and they got the sides. You know what I mean? So
Maybe the lighting makes it seem smaller, I
sure. Oh,
guess.
for sure. Yeah, because you don't see that back half. When you walk out, you just see the immediate. The
Yeah,
full
yeah.
photo. Great room though.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're shooting that October 21st, and it's funny because now with my show in Vegas. I literally yesterday was the first day I took out all my old material that I know works, putting this new stuff in. It's not all new, it's stuff I've done over the years, but stuff I haven't really done and haven't done on TV for a while. And so as you know, you got to put it back in because I put this stuff in that I did for like 5-6 years back in the day. And I know it's good because that's why I'm putting it in. But man, if you don't record it or tape it, it's amazing. You have to phone a few people going, what the hell was I
Your camera, there's
my
a
camera went,
ghost.
Jesus, thank God I had pants on there, Keith. Christ, you should have could unleash
Well,
the dragon.
I don't release the video, so you're good.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, let me get this fixed so at least I can look at you. God damn it. Hold on there. Shit. Hang on.
I was going to tell you there's a ghost in your.
I know. Well, my wife would believe that actually. She's into that stuff. All right. So, anyways, where are we? Oh yeah. So I'm putting new stuff in my show now. So basically, so it has to be like you just said. It has to be without thinking. It has to be because don't forget, as I'm doing a joke, I've got cards and coins and all sorts of crap that I have to grab and do it. So I'm not only, as you know, executing a trick or trying to be sneaky and make it work. I'm also having a line to go with it. And if I don't get the deck of cards out of the box right at the same time or toss the box in the air, the joke's not going to work, as you know, because as you know, sometimes as a joke you got to pull the microphone away or using the microphone stand as a joke or the stool or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it really makes a difference. Or if you do a comedy club that doesn't have a wooden stool and you're used to using that versus a metal stool or something that's just weird, you kind of go, shit, that's not going to work for the bit I'm doing, you know what I mean? So anyways, yeah, so I'm working stuff in now, and you're right, that 10,000 hours or 1,000 hours for every minute. You're not kidding. Like I've changed my whole show. And last night was the first night I put all the new stuff in. And I've left a couple things that I know are great that I want to keep in my show because I need something that I'm comfortable with 100%, a beginning and an end. But everything else and it went really well. I was looking at my set list a lot on the floor because my show order is all over the place. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, definitely.
And for those people that don't do comedy that listen to this and that, the perfect example is when you listen to an album or a record and the songs, you love that album so much, you already anticipate the next song coming on, right?
Yeah.
But what's funny is, say you played that album 100 times and then somebody makes you a mixtape of that same music and it's in a different order. It's so funny because your mind mentally goes right into that next song and it's not, and it throws you off a little bit. It's very funny. So that's what comedy's like, as when you have a set list in your head that you go bump right into, you're so used to that. So this one is so different because I've got all the tricks. There's no order anymore. You know what I mean? So at least not yet. So.
Yeah. A little trick I learned, on like how to, because like you're right, you got to write a set list, and like I feel if you look down on it, it makes the audience think you're not prepared for them or something. So a little trick I learned is I'll get a black Sharpie and I'll write it on the stool or something.
Smart.
You know what
Very
I
smart.
mean? And then
Yeah,
the club could just get a new stool next week.
exactly. Exactly. And that's my thing with a special. I always have a set list when I travel and tour on the front of my stage. When I travel and tour, I do put different things in where I go sometimes. And I just look down, I know where it is, and we're back. But during a special, I don't really want that. And a lot of times I'll have it off stage, right or left, on big cardboards,
Yeah.
like big easel, like the old days that Dean Martin used to use, and it went before teleprompters, so that I'd see it. So that way I don't have anything on the, on the floor for the taping. Because I don't, you'd think I'd know what I'm doing, but with this new material, a lot of times it's not the way it works.
Hollywood trade secret right there on Razor Riffs.
That's it. That's it.
So Murray, this question is actually a good question, even though it's also a hypocritical question because it did help you. Do you feel competition shows like America's Got Talent is healthy for the arts, like comedy and magician?
I think it's phenomenal. Yes. We go right back to what Star Search, and we go back further. Yeah, I think they're really helpful because it gives people an avenue to express themselves when you're not a star. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
everyone needs a place to be bad, or not even be bad, be good, when you're good, to be shown off. Now we're a little bit lucky in our world today because we have the Instagrams and TikToks and Facebooks, so we can create our own little audience. You know what I mean? But to get that mass appeal instantly, it's not easy, and television does do that for you, or streaming now, of course, because TV's now all gone to streaming almost, I guess. So I think they're great because it gives you that, literally, that, I don't want to say 15 minutes of fame, more like 2 minutes of fame, but it does give you a good kick in the butt. And look how many stars have come out of that, from Carrie Underwood to Kelly, what's her face, who has a show now, and all these different people, I'm talking Kelly Clarkson. And I was gonna say Kelly Osbourne as well, but because she's done well too. But her parents are already really famous. So that wasn't
Right.
it's hard, but it was nice to have famous parents. But yeah, so I think it really helps a lot. And does it help an act that's already been out there? I don't know. Like, an older act that maybe has proven material, because you have to design your material for the act and for the TV show. Like, everything I did in America's Got Talent, I'd never done before. I purposely made those routines for that show because you only got 90 seconds to kill it.
Yeah.
90 seconds. I mean, you really got to hit it hard when you come out there, so it's a very, very different mentality. It's like I do 2 shows here in Vegas. My Tropicana show is an hour and 10 minutes, 15. And it's a win because people are already knowing what they're seeing. They're coming to see me. So they're already fans, right? And if they're not, they're still coming to see me and they kind of know what they're getting. I do the show Fantasy at the Luxor, which is the #1 topless review here in Las Vegas. Been here like 24 years. And I do the comedy guest spot. I come out and do 10 minutes in it. Well, they don't expect me. You know what I mean? They're there to see, these beautiful girls and that. And here I walk out and they're like, what are we doing right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have literally about 40 seconds to win them over and make them cool with you being on that stage when they did not expect you coming out. Even though when I walk out, yeah, maybe half the audience or a third of them might know who I am, but it's like, what are we doing right now? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, say you're getting a massage and all of a sudden Ron White walks in the massage. You're like, what are you kidding me? Why are you, is we just, huh? So that's kind of the reaction that when you're in a show like that, you go, why is he on stage right now? So that's the same mentality. I think when you do these competition shows, you really got to have that material. Like when you walk out, you hit and say something that resonates with that whole audience, or at least most of them, and then once you get them, now you got a few minutes to kind of enjoy that,
Yeah, I mean, if I ever get on America's Got Talent, I would totally do it. But this is why I said I think it's a hypocritical question, because I personally feel it's unhealthy for the artists because you're being judged when really some audiences don't understand your style or whatever. So like it could really affect you.
Correct. You mean your mental health? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So you're like, well, just because I didn't do one good joke on that doesn't mean I'm a terrible comic. Or just because I did one great joke doesn't mean I'm a good comic. You know what I mean?
100%. No, it's
So
very valid, you know. And as you know, when you know, we all need a place to be bad somewhere. And the problem is, you know, usually it's an open mic when there's 9 people in the audience. So it really doesn't affect you. But when there is, you know, 3 million people watching, or in my case, when I did it, 8.5 million, or no, 22 million, I guess at that point, you
times
know,
that by 4, Murray, it's
yes.
more pressure.
Oh my God, yeah. So it is different, you know what I mean? But then also I rather be, you know, if I'm sucking on national TV, I'd rather really suck badly enough that people talk about it. As long
Yeah.
as they're talking about it, they're talking about me. You know what I mean? As long as I didn't kill anybody or rob a bank, that's a win. As long as you're talking about me, I can correct things. You know, there's a lot of people that certain things happen negatively in their careers and it really didn't affect them badly. Look at, you know, Kim Kardashian and her sex tape, or Paris Hilton. Not, you
That
know,
probably helped them.
it did,
Yeah.
100%. It
You
was
know?
their timing on that couldn't have been better. It wasn't taboo. It was kind of like wow, and they used that fame to boost them right into something else. You know what I mean? And it's what it is. You know.
You ever watch their sex tape and think, ah, they're not that hot?
No, I watched it and thought, damn, I wish I was there. They're pretty goddamn hot. Is that wrong?
Yeah.
God, you know. And they're rich and hot. I mean, God, really, really. You know,
Murray, I
people,
got 3 more questions and I want to respect your time. But
right.
the question is, in Vegas, are the magicians like all buddies together, or is there like competition? Because, like I said, you know, being comic, we could talk about who's funny or who's not. But with magicians, is that how it's like too?
Yeah, it gets a little competitive here and there. People, you know, not everyone's friends, you know what I mean? I think the comedy world is a lot more friendly than the magic world. You know, there's a lot of jealousy in magic because we go back to that same scenario I mentioned to you before, you know. Magic is a talent that you can buy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And if you have more money, you can get more billboards or more magic, bigger tricks that look more impressive when really it's the girl inside the box doing all the work, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And as you know, with comedy, you know, or anything of the other art form, you really have to hone in being good. Now look, magic on the other side, yes, if you're doing card manipulation, sleight of hand, coin stuff, no, that you can't just give somebody a deck of cards and they can do a trick. But I'm telling you right now, though, I can do a sleight of hand trick with cards that I've taken me 6 months to learn, right? And do the trick. But I can also teach you right now and give you a trick deck of cards and teach you within 5 minutes how to do a trick. And your trick, and the trick that took me 6 months to a year to learn sleight of hand wise, to the layman will be equally as impressive
yeah.
because they don't know the method. So that's the problem, you know. So there's a few people, there's a few magicians here and there that don't, you know, get certain things, you know, and like I said, it's one of those things where because of that fact, whereas like a juggler, you can go, ah, that juggler sucks. I'm like, no, he juggles 19 balls. Yeah, he sucks. I'm like, no, you may not like the guy, but he juggles 19 balls. You can't, that, you know what I mean? Or even comedians, you know, you can go, well, he sold out T-Mobile Arena. Ah, he sucks. I'm like, okay, fair enough. You don't like him. Fair enough. But he sold out T-Mobile Arena. So I don't give a shit if you like him or not. I'm just telling you what he did.
He's working hard. He's doing something right. Yeah.
Somebody likes him, you know what I mean? You know, and it's like, you know, Stephen Wright, the comic, I was never a fan of his. I liked his look, and in the 80s, became very, very famous for his type of comedy. I have a lot of respect for it. It's just not my style. You know, I laugh at it, you know, and that, but I respect it. You know, people like him, the big following and all that stuff still does, you know, but there's certain people that, you know, but that's what comedy is, subjective, you know?
Yeah. I do know one magic trick where like it's not mine. I forgot who the magician was that did it, so I can't give him proper credit. But basically, he'd say pick a card, and the audience would pick a card, and then he'd write on a piece of paper. He says, "Okay, if I write down your number on the card, you have to give me your phone number." And the lady's like, "Oh, okay." So he writes down on a card, and he says, "Okay, flip this paper. Was it your number?" And she flips it and says, "Your number." So like it's kind of
Yeah. I
yeah.
love that.
So,
I love that.
but
That's
that's the
so
only
funny.
trick I know. I don't know whose it is, but I get a lot of ladies' numbers with that.
That's cute. I love it.
uh, all right, so Murray, so what is your advice to fellow magicians who are trying to come at the level that you're at? Because, like I said, magician is probably hard to like try and bring up like that.
It is, you know. And the question is like, what were you saying? Like, if somebody wants to get in the business, how to go about it, really?
Yeah,
You know, I think I was asked this question about a week ago. I think, and this goes for anything, find any venue you can do a live show at and do it. You'll never get good sitting at home writing lines on a piece of paper or talking to a mirror or performing in front of a mirror. It's good to get the idea and obviously work things out. But the sooner you can take that joke or that magic trick or that bit you're working on and put it in front of one person, two person, 10,000 people, man, you will take that joke or that bit from 0 to 60 in no time. But if you're at home kind of, I don't know if I should do it. And every day, my wife is a stand-up comic as well, but she's more of a host and she really wants to get into stand-up and she's really funny and she needs a little more confidence because but when she's on stage, she does great.
Yeah.
And we did the thing recently that kind of boosted her confidence again. And I said, honey, just go to open mics. Like it's okay to be bad. I know you're so used to because she's been in shows all her life. She's a showgirl and a host. So it's hard to go on stage and have things not go well. But in comedy and in entertainment, that's why there's open mics. That's the way it works. That's that's like going to the gym and not being able to lift 200 pounds. So you lift 90, that's what you do. Right. And I said, babe, just go up there and you'll get, it's a drug, and you'll go up there and go, God damn, that 2 jokes bombed. And you have a laugh with your friends. And then they'll go, let's add add this little thing. Like you should mention that you're in a potato farm or why don't you just, oh shit, next time I'll try that. But then the other 2 or 3 jokes will hit great. You know what I mean? And it makes you feel great. So I always tell people anytime, once you get a piece of material, I don't care if you're a singer, dancer, magician, musician, comedian, and you have a place to perform, old age home, a charity show, I don't care. It could be a penitentiary or jail. I performed them at all, and go out there. Anyone that's willing to watch you, even your dog and your cat, even though they probably don't, their laughability or their clapping is a little hard, but if they had thumbs,
they're
totally
pawing things.
Exactly. That's my advice for anybody. Just get some stuff and get out there. And don't be scared to bomb. You're going to bomb. If you haven't bombed, you haven't done it long enough, and if that thing as a magician, if a trick hasn't gone wrong in you on stage, you haven't worked enough. Because if you have worked enough, something will go wrong. Not that it's supposed to, and I wish that on anybody, but it's part of the package.
And then my last question, and if when I close the show, if you could stay on for 1 second, because I have to ask you something off the clock.
Yeah.
But so my last question for you is, if you could go in a time machine and talk to a younger version of you, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself to 2 things. I think I tell myself it really is who you know and making connection with people to get ahead in the world, and to be nice to people and listen more than you talk. You'll learn a lot more. Even though it's an interview and I know I've talked more than you, but so
but that's why it's here. I learned from this.
Exactly. But I think those are 3 things, if you listen, you'll learn a lot more. And I got friends who are in the business and they ask me a question and then I say 4 words and they're talking again. I go, well, you don't want to hear what I have to say. It's not important. And I don't care because I'm doing what I do and they're the ones that want the help. And I'm like, well, you just asked me. I started to talk. You're going to tell me, you're going to talk to me now. I'm like, well, okay, I don't need to tell you. I don't really give a shit, Right. So listening's a really big component. And also I think, the sooner you can get into the environment that you want, meaning if you want to be a golf pro, start golfing at 3 years old or 4. If you want to be a comic, try to get into a comedy club at 17 years old or 15 or 13 or whatever, you know what I mean? Start doing it earlier because those years when you're like age 7 to like 21, those are years that you never get back because you got no responsibility, usually living with mom and dad or grandma or grandpa or whoever else raising you. And all you got to do is time. All you got to do is just eat crap, learn a few things at school, graduate. And then in that time, you could actually learn a really cool skill. But if you look at people that are really, really ahead of the game, I mean, the Tiger Woods and the Serena Williams and the Williams sisters, and, the list goes on, the Jacksons, the Osmonds, everybody, they started very young and you don't have. Now, I'm not saying if you don't start comedy till 25 or 30, you can't be successful. Hell, Garth Brooks didn't really start making till his late 30s. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. Rodney Dangerfield didn't get his big break until his 60s.
Exactly. Phyllis Diller, 47, and I know times are changing now as well, but look at Betty White. When she passed away, she was more famous than she's ever been, you know what I mean? And she was famous for a long time, of course, but most of the young kids didn't realize what she was like in the 60s and 70s on TV, but the idea is the sooner you can get into your environment. I always tell people, if you want to go drill oil, well, don't go to Hawaii. don't go to Nevada. There's no oil here. Go to Texas. Go to Kuwait. That's where the oil is. You know what I mean? Same way. You want to be on Broadway, go to New York and live in a van and do what you got to do to get great, and go audition every day. Get those no's out of the way because the one will be yes. Go to LA and go audition for something. Maybe not this month. It's a little tight on the auditioning and with the writer's strike and SAG and everything, you might want to take a vacation this month. But the point is, though, if you want to be on TV, go to LA. You got to be there and go to the auditions, go do central casting and be an extra and really see how things are shot and made and make friends, because those people on the set, I did that stuff when I was in my late 20s. And I'll meet the odd person here in Vegas. You're not going to believe the story, but we were an extra on some Mott's apple juice commercial in the middle of Agora Hills about 25 years ago. And I'll go, you know what? You're not going to believe that. That's the commercial that I got my SAG card on because they needed my hands for the shot. And that was a close up and a featured part of that shot. And that's how I got my SAG card, So who would ever think
that's awesome.
Isn't that crazy? And I tried for years to get my SAG card. At that point, I didn't go for it because I was doing so much reality TV. I didn't want that to affect it. So I held back on it. Isn't that funny? Every time I couldn't get it. And then when I could get it for this damn hand thing I did for an apple with Mott's apple juice or something, then I was like, I don't think I want to spend the $4,000 right now. And because I'm doing realities now, of course I am, because I had to be in the union, of course. But what are the chances, huh? So
yeah. And where can the folks at home follow and support you?
You can find me anywhere. If you put Murray the Magician on Google, you'll see everything. But it's Murray Magic, it's Murray Sawchuk, Murray the Magician, all my socials. Just put Murray and Magic together. You'll probably see more than you really want to see. So, and come say hi to me in Vegas, everybody.
Awesome. Well, guys, that was the show. Murray, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you.
Thank you very much, too, man. I appreciate it. Anytime you're in Vegas, come hang out. You're always a guest at my show.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, guys, subscribe, rate, review, and we'll see you next week.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.